Peasants, peasants. Why I'm better than John Singer Sargent. Reason number 5,870. I thought I'd do something a little bit different for this video. I'm going to articulate in real time my thought process as I paint, and this is a cityscape I'm doing for a book cover of my friend. And if you want to see the start of the painting, I have it all recorded in my live stream playlist. I live streamed it this morning. I live stream every Tuesdays and Thursdays, 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Let's get to it. All right, for this I'm using a 9 and an 8 flat synthetic brush. I'm just using 2 of them. Normally I use more brushes, but you know what? Sometimes you gotta switch it up. I'm just doing 2 for now. One I'm kind of keeping in the lighter range, one in the darker range. I'm gonna go with a little alizarin crimson. I'm gonna add a little bit of ultramarine blue to the top. That's gonna make some purple, but I'm gonna put more alizarin crimson in the blue. And what I'm gonna do is focusing on the drawing and the brushwork right here in one brush stroke. Because I'm perfect, I will make this go from dark to light. Watch this. Press it down, breathe in, start breathing out, pull up, lift, lightly. That way you're gonna get a deep red. You're just gonna fade it from dark into the light. I'm gonna do the same thing over here because I'm trying to work on the drawing of the street, which is obviously a very straight line right there. And so we're gonna do the same thing. Now this alizarin crimson and ultramarine blue is going to mix with underpainting underneath, which is essentially yellow, red, and a little bit of white. So I drop my brush down to where I think the drawing should be, where the street meets the wall. I'm gonna press the paint in, hold up, pull, lift up. A little bit dark. I'm gonna go one more pass over it. If I want to desaturate the color, all I have to do is add a little bit of green. For that is the opposite of this red that I am mixing. That will gray it out a little bit, which I might consider doing, but not right now. I'm worried more about the light and dark impression and getting the drawing correct than I am really with the color, though I am trying to push the color some. One more pass. Pull up. There we are. I'm going into the dark brush. I'm going to mix some ivory black with alizarin crimson. I'm going to squint down. I'm going to work edge up right beside that which I just painted. It's going to be the darker door. I'm going to press. Straight down. Let's drop it down a little bit more. Here we are. Now looking at the drawing, this shadow shape needs to go over that way some. So I'm going to go back into the dark, which is the alizarin crimson and ivory black. Squint down at the drawing. I'm going to bring the line over just a little bit like that. And I'm going to make it a little bit softer on the side to give it a little bit of a fade. And there we go. As we're working with this area, I'm going to take some of this light and shape ever so slightly this area right here, this building. But I'm going to be very careful because it's very atmospheric, so I want to keep it soft. I don't mind this sharp being here because that's a nice contrast, though I would like to work on the drawing of that a little bit better. It's a nice contrast with that light area right there, which I still need to work on and refine, but I will. This is the beginning stage of the painting, and I probably have about 2 or 3 more 3 to 4 hour sessions left with this. So I'm going to squint down, get the light impression. I'm going to mix that color, so I'm going to add some white to the blue, black / orange to gray it down mixture that I'm using. I'm going to go more towards the lighter end with this brush. At this point, I'm going to add a little bit of walnut oil, which is the only medium that I've used so far with this painting, just to thin out the paint ever so slightly. And I'm going to squint down, and now here's where the drawing comes into play. So where my expert brushwork skills come into play, right here. Down, down. The more you tap the brush, the dirtier it gets, the darker it gets, and you can kind of bring it down, but be careful because you'll gray out the colors if you don't add color as you transition down into the other colors. Color. All right, now I'm going to take the dark brush. I'm going to bring some of this dark in to shape this edge right there. So essentially when I'm painting, I'm worrying about the light value of whatever I'm mixing, light, dark, how light is it, then the color, and then you place it, and that's where your drawing skills come in handy. Son of a bitch. We're in the dark section on my palette, which is the lower left side. I'm going to add some black. I'm going to squint down, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to make it a little bit warm, so I'm going to add some alizarin crimson compared to the cooler ultramarine blue that I would otherwise use. You can do a combination of the two, and it actually makes a very deep, rich color. You want this to be a very transparent value right here, a value that sinks in. A value is simply a lightness, the color, the lightness of the color. That's what I'm referring to it as. Okay, so then we have this little part that juts out, staircase. I'm just gonna put one brush stroke down. Boom! I'm gonna wipe the brush off on the palette, make sure I don't have any white in that mixture. I'm gonna go back into the darks. And that's very important because otherwise you will lose the transparency on your palette in the dark section that you have chosen. Okay, we're gonna squint down, and I'm actually gonna bring some of this dark value down here too. I'm gonna push the dark value here, which is gonna help contrast this light up top, which is very important at this stage in the expert painting. I'm going to squint down, and as I'm doing so, I darken that. I also see that this needs to be fixed right here. There's a little area right here. Now I can take some artistic liberties to it, but since I'm a classical realist painter and have no imagination at all, I simply copy everything I see without thinking about it. So I simply take my brush and I do a square where I think it is. I'm going to go over it one more time to make it a little bit more atmospheric. Immediately realize that didn't really do anything, so I'm going to go over it one more time, and then I think that looks pretty damn good. Now, I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to do a technique that is freaking amazing right here, which is I'm going to place my pinky finger on the side of the board, then realize that my hand is not long enough for such a feat. So then I'm going to stop and think about how I'm going to draw this little piece that's coming across without having my hand shake. So I realize I just have to be really damn good with this. I'm going to go through, and then I'm going to think twice about it because I still need to work this highlight up. Now y'all might think I'm trying to be funny with that, but this is my thought process, and this is the type of stuff that I do. I think it's important to note. All right, so instead I'm going to take this excess paint and I'm going to paint it up at the very top right here to shape this area out, which frankly I have no idea what's going on up there. Never paint when you don't know what's going on, okay? So just, you can selectively listen to this stuff right here if you want. All right, get on my tippy toes to avoid the reflection on the iPad, squint down to get the drawing correct here, and I'm gonna work on the base where the wall meets the ground because that needs some work. Now a lot of this is drawing, it's getting the impression, the light values, and the color values, but a lot of the drawing, what I mean is putting in the right shape and getting your transitions correct. Now, being that this is the first painting, it's still a little bit sloppy in several areas, and that needs work, and that's okay. There's a lamppost right here that I do want to put in. I joke about not being artistic, but I actually do make these decisions. There's going to be a light post right here. I'm not going to put that in quite yet because I still want to work this area up, and I don't want to work around the light post. I want to be able to put that in with a couple brush strokes and have that freshly laid on top of the work. So let's move around just a little bit. Let's go down to this post right here and work the edges out. Work the edges. So shapes and edges, that's what makes the drawing. Shapes, edges in relationship to every other shape in the painting. So a great artist slash draftsman, one who draws, is able to see the entire shape of what they're looking at the same time. In that manner, you'll be able to judge accurately every single shape to each other. So all the shapes will relate to one another. Okay, taking my light blue brush, I'm going to wipe off as much excess paint as I can. I'm going to go into the brown section right here, and this I'm using for the street. I'm going to add a little bit of alizarin crimson. I'm getting the value right, then I'm getting the color. I'm doing this to shape this post out just a little bit. So we have one. I'm not going to worry about those little cobblestone lines in the street at this point. I'm just simply trying to get an impression, get the shape accurate. There we go. And just do simple basic strokes. Simple basic strokes. And what I like to do in paintings like this, it's not totally accurate in terms of observation. It's a little bit more artistic. I like to, the reason why I'm working with it, and this is one of the reasons why I'm working with only 2 brushes, is I like to take color and spread it all out over the painting. And in that way, it'll tie the painting and it gives it a nice repetition of color here and there. All right, so we're going to go back into that one more time. There we go. I tell you what, I think it'd be really nice. Put a little bit more light in there. Let's go over it a little bit more so it blends it in some, just ever so slightly. All right, and constantly be sure to switch the colors up so it doesn't start looking monochrome. Okay. So again, getting the dark on the brush, squint down, step up to observe, step back, step up again to observe. Sometimes you need to do that twice. And then there's this little area that's jutting out some. Let's put that in. One single brush stroke, a perfect brush stroke, as all my brush strokes are. Adding alizarin crimson with ivory black, again. Trying to maintain an accurate impression, yet get the drawing of the building correct at the same time. Let's draw this edge right here. I'm going to bring it in just a little bit and make this a little bit darker. Drop it straight down, a perfect brush stroke as I normally do. Then I realized that I grayed out half of it because the black mixed with the yellow underneath and it made a green. That is not good. However, being someone who has been in this situation literally a billion times before, I go back into my dark, add some alizarin crimson to the black, and I go back into it very bravely. This time with the edge of the brush. As I'm painting, I'm pushing the paint down as well. And I can work on that, that's fine. Let's go into the brush again. I'm going to go with more color this time. Go to the top, color meaning alizarin crimson. I added a touch of cadmium red to the top and bring it down again. There we go. So just go over it. And get a little bit of more cadmium red, a little bit more alizarin. I'm going to get a touch of my orange up top. Just to lighten it some, but it's pure color. And I'm going to go crosswise in it top to give it a little bit of variation. And the same thing up here, I'm going to take it, drop it down just a little bit to give a little bit of a shadow. There's a light section up here which I'm going to build up. So I'm going to go straight into alizarin crimson, cadmium red. This is pure color pretty much. I'm going to squint down and I'm just going to do some basic blocking strokes. This is going to be the underpainting that the lighter values are going to lay upon later on when this is dried and I'm paint back into it. So I'm putting down pure color, and this is what's going to help it to turn, to pop, along with my light values later on when I choose to do that. Alizarin crimson, again, I'm going to tie it into this painting. Let's unify because this is a little bit broken up here. So I'm just going to take some alizarin crimson and I'm going to just go over it ever so slightly. As you can tell, it grayed out because I didn't use enough alizarin crimson. So I'm going to go back into this. I'm going to take some dark. Actually, I'm going to switch brushes because no, this is my dark brush. Okay, so I'm going to continue using this dark brush, go into the dark. I'm going to add a little bit of cadmium red and then some alizarin crimson. And then again, I'm going to go back into it right here and unify this area. One. And that looks a little bit better. So this is essentially the underpainting in which the lights are going to lay upon after I let this dry a little bit. I would say for a day or so. There we go. And I'm going to bring a little bit of red up top there because the shadows are dead, and that's something that's going to make it turn. So when I say make something turn, it makes it look three-dimensional. It makes it pop out from the canvas or the board in this case. Color does that as well. It's not just values, it's color. You have to really do a good job of observing color and pushing it, especially in the dark areas. Okay, we got the alizarin crimson there. I'm going to work it into the shadows just ever so slightly at the top. Again, I'm going to go back into alizarin crimson. I'm keeping it very dark and transparent. I'm going to just add a little bit up here just to give it some variation. Just being very expressive with my strokes right now. There we go. And step back, see how that looks. The impression is there. The light is lacking, but that's to be expected at this stage because I have suppressed it. I'm going to go up with alizarin crimson and ultramarine blue to create a very deep dark. And I'm going to take it and shape this top part a little bit, but then I'm going to think better of it because I think I like how that is for now. So instead, I'm going to look at this piece right here and I'm going to redraw this, get a little bit darker. I'm going to press in the side and I'm going to try to drag it straight down. This is where drawing comes in handy. Straight down, just relax. There you go, that looks a little bit better. Step back, there's nice rich color. So you still have the impression of dark, but it's still light there and then getting dark down on the street. This drawing needs some work. This is starting to work right here. Need to redraw this light area because it's not that well drawn or painted in this case. The highlights I will add on later. I will accentuate the highlights, fix the drawing in these areas too. All right, guys, that is my thought process. It's very jumbled, as you can tell. I make a lot of mistakes, and which is one of the reasons why I want to show you this video. It's more raw, and for all of you who are beginners and painting's overwhelming, drawing's overwhelming, and you make a lot of mistakes, that's totally normal. I do too. So I stream every Tuesdays and Thursdays, 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Everybody's welcome. Y'all take care.